Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The winner of the third and final test between hosts England and the West Indies at Old Trafford in Manchester, which starts on Friday, will take the Wisden Trophy. The Windies failing to chase down 313 in the second test, falling short by 113 runs. The lack of form of most of the West Indies frontline batsmen exploited by England in the second test match. Shamar Brooks, Craig Brathwaite, Jermaine Blackwood, Roston Chase to an extent apart. All the Windies batsmen have struggled so far in England. Captain Jason Holder, who bats at number 8, is the highest ranked West Indies batsman according to the latest ICC numbers. Holder is at number 41. Opener John Campbell has been woeful on tour so far, tallying only 52 runs from 4 innings. Shai Hope is far away from his best form, scoring only 57 runs in 4 innings. Now, some pundits believe Hope's run of low scores is due to him being asked to bat at number 3. But what do the numbers say? Hope appeared to have moved up to another level with his monumental innings in England 2 years ago. But these are his numbers in the batting positions that he has served in. At number 3, he's been averaging 17.29 as opener, 14.33. At number 4, he averages 32.78. At number 5, 50. Number 6, 24. Batting at number 7, 21. And batting at number 8, 11. So the statistics here suggesting that at 4 and 5, Shai Hope is at his most productive. Now, as we said, you will remember his double hundred at Headingley Leeds 2 years ago in England, which thrust him onto the international scene as a batsman, polished and with class and with a lot of potential, but things have really gone awry since that. Now, since those performances in Headingley 2 years ago, he has been averaging pretty unimpressive scores. The 26-year-old is at the moment the second lowest top order performer in the test batting averages since January 2018 for the batsmen who have played 10 or more matches. Only Moeen Ali at 17.05 has been less productive than he has been. 19.27 his average. Raval from New Zealand 21.66, Rahul from India 22.23, and Craig Brathwaite 23.61. So the numbers for Shai Hope looking very unimpressive at the moment, and by most experts' accounts will struggle to keep his spot in the third test starting at Old Trafford on Friday in England, as the West Indies try to avoid defeat in that test match, which would mean, if they avoid defeat, that they would keep the Wisden Trophy. If they lose, they would give up the Wisden Trophy. If they win, of course, they keep the Wisden Trophy, which they won in the Caribbean last year. Joining us now to discuss the troubles of the West Indies batting, a man who knows a lot about West Indies batting, the former West Indies coach, Toby Radford. Toby, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you on as we try to analyse what has been happening to the West Indies team in England and generally over the past year and a half or so, because the statistics suggested, even coming into this series, that the middle order part of the West Indies batting has been more productive than the top order. Welcome, Toby. Yeah. Your thoughts on what happened in this second test and the troubles of the West Indies batsmen at the moment?
Yes, good evening, guys. I think inconsistency, and I think what we have seen, and I think you mentioned some of the guys who have played well on this tour so far. I mean, Jermaine Blackwood, I think, has had a very good tour. Shamar Brooks, those batsmen who are prepared to get forward, and it's very clear from the way that England have bowled that they're going to target the stumps, target the pads, they're going to go a little bit fuller. That if you get stuck on the crease, those are the guys who are struggling. But the ones who are playing well, as I say, Blackwood, Shamar Brooks, who are getting a stride in, they look the most competent at the moment in terms of playing in these conditions.
Yeah. Can you speak specifically about Shai Hope's woes? Because we have, over the past week and a half, highlighted the fact that he averages at the moment 52 in ODI cricket, but 25 or so in Test cricket. And his performances in ODI cricket with the white ball, very, very magnificent in recent times. What specifically would be bothering him with a red ball?
Well, certainly after the 200s, I mean, he won that test match at Headingley back in 2017, and we then went to New Zealand, the tour straight after. It was very clear that the New Zealanders had looked at the footage from England, and Shai didn't get a lot pitched in his half. There was a lot of aggressive bowling, short pitch bowling, and I think teams generally, that's how they've gone at Shai with the red ball game over the last couple of years. To combat that, I think he then tried to stay a bit leg side of the ball, and that's not really what you want to do. What I saw on the early signs of this tour, he'd gone back to his old setup. He was covering off stump a little bit more, but clearly again in the second innings of this last test, stuck on the crease. And you just can't hesitate at this level of the game. The ball's coming down 85, 90 mile an hour. While you're thinking about whether to go forward or back, the ball is through you. You just got to be, I think, a little bit more committed. And when he's at his best, like any player, on that awkward length, he gets in and you kill the length. You've got to get forward. And as I said, Brooks has done it. Blackwood is doing it really well. And I think for Shai's just got to be a bit more committed on that awkward length, because while you're being a bit dilatory, the ball is through you and it's either going to get bowled or you're going to get LBW.
Toby, yesterday one of our viewers, they sent a voice note to us and they said they looked at England bat on the pitch and, you know, they were brilliant. And then they looked at West Indies come back on that same pitch and they batted as if it was a totally different pitch. Going forward, would you say we should shuffle the batting order? Do we drop Shai Hope? What do we do moving forward to ensure that we win the third test?
I think there's a couple of things. As I said, I mean, there's two tactics from England. One is to bowl back into the batters, so back in at the stumps, back into the pads, all right? They're bowling very, very straight, whereas the West Indies, we tended to bowl a little bit wider. The other thing is, as soon as any of the West Indies batters get a partnership, and I watched it all the way through the match, the minute that Blackwood and Shamar Brooks got a partnership, the England guys, they got aggressive, they went round the wicket, they started to bowl bumpers, they put men round the back, catchers, leg slip, short leg, couple of men back on. They started to make things happen. I just felt that when we bowled, and don't forget, you know, the team went for 500, so the batters were always under pressure in this game. What I'd like to see is when England get a partnership, I want to see that same aggression from the bowling attack to put their batters on the back foot. You know, I don't think what we can allow them to do is keep bowling a corridor and just let these batters build big partnerships. So I think it's twofold. I think how we bowl at them, we've got to shake them up a little bit because we've got plenty of firepower in the West Indies team. I'd like to see a few more bouncers. What I saw this week, I don't know the exact figures, but I think England would have bowled 50-odd bouncers. And if I saw 10 from the West Indies, I think those figures would be somewhere around right. So I want a bit more aggression when we bowl at them. And I think when we bat against them, we've just got to get out of the crease. One of the tactics we employed last winter when we beat them in the Caribbean and in the Test match in 2017 was a lot of the batters, we got them batting outside the crease. And the idea was that Broad and Anderson, when he played, and certainly Wokes, they're the type of bowlers that bowl a very awkward length. And if you can stand out of the crease, you make their length far more difficult for them. They end up having to change what they're doing. And then if you do get hit on the pads, 9 times out of 10, the umpire isn't going to give it because you're further down the wicket. And when they review it, often you find it's not hitting. So I think, you know, going back to what worked last year and in 17, which is batting out of the crease, it really makes it difficult for those seam bowlers who just want to keep targeting the stumps and targeting your pads.
In the post-match interview, head coach Phil Simmons, he spoke about, you know, these batsmen getting starts. It's not as if they're not getting starts, but converting it into hundreds, which is what we needed at that point in time, seems to be a massive difficulty. You know, how do we get into the players' minds heading into the third test in order to ensure that we convert these starts into big scores?
I think, look, sometimes that's concentration, sometimes it's an element of fitness, and then you make mistakes. You know, I totally agree. A lot of guys, I mean, there's a lot of guys who've shown already in these 2 test matches that they're not in bad form. You know, Brooks has had scores, Blackwood's had scores, Chase has had scores, Brathwaite's had scores, but they are 60s, they're 70s, they're 50s. They're not match-defining scores. What you're really wanting now is 100 or big 100, which will, you know, decides where the game goes. These guys are capable of it. They've done it before, and I think that has got to be the challenge now. It's not getting in, they're getting in. They've just got to go on for longer. But I come back to the point that England, that, you know, I don't think these guys have necessarily given their wickets away. I think England have had some strategy where they've got aggressive, they've gone around the wicket, they've unsettled the West Indies batters. And if I was talking to those batters, I'd be saying, look, if they go around the wicket, you know, you've just got to see off those aggressive spells and keep doing what you've been doing, but do it for longer. You know, you've got to have that Shiv mentality of about 5 hours, 6 hours, and you're going to win test matches, you know, because you're going to score big hundreds. So I think get into that mindset now, batting long, long periods of time.
You spoke earlier on, Toby, about consistency, which has been a lifelong, well, not lifelong, but certainly in recent memory, an issue with the West Indies batsmen. A lot has been made of the momentum that England now has in this series. So a lot of experts now consider, based on what happened in the second test in Old Trafford, that England have the momentum now and would be favourites to win this match. You know the West Indies batsmen well. How good are their recovery skills mentally to come back on Friday and show the kind of quality that we know they have to fend off whatever England throws at them?
I honestly, I think sometimes the West Indies have got to be on the ropes, having received a few punches, to really come out and show you what they've got. I mean, I was with the team back in 17 when we got blown away in the first test match at Edgbaston. I think the game was over in 3 days. It might have been 2.5 days. And the guys were in such a low place. And the very next game we went to was Headingley, and you saw Shai Hope get 200s. You saw Craig Brathwaite get 100 and a 90. Roach and Gabriel bowled them out. And you thought how these guys had turned themselves around in the space of a few days, but they did. So if they can do it then, I have absolutely every belief that they can do it again. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the intent, the positivity, the aggression. You know, if I'm being brutally honest, I'm not convinced it was the right decision at the toss. The pitch at Old Trafford is very, very different to the pitch at the Rose Bowl. And I believe that the management there probably thought, look, we've just bowled England out at Southampton. You know, I'm sure we can do it again, win the toss, bowl again. But they're very, very different pitches. And I don't think it was a straightforward decision, because those bowlers only had 2 or 3 days turnaround, which isn't a lot. And you think the Gabriel's had a long-term injury, Roachie's getting on a little bit now. You know, it's not easy for those guys to go and win a test match and 2 days later suddenly bowl again and try and bowl England out again. So potentially I think it was a bat first. The other point is at Old Trafford, anyone knows, when you look at the statistics at Old Trafford, it always is hard batting second because it turns, it bounces. So potentially there, you win the toss, you bat and do exactly what England did, get a big score and put the other side under pressure with scoreboard runs. And there's nothing like pressure like a big, 500 score on there.
Ben Stokes has replaced Jason Holder as the #1 Test all-rounder. How did this news, grip you? Did you expect it? And of course, do you think that this will work in Jason Holder's favor in the sense that, he'll have that sort of aggravation? He'll want to get some sort of revenge going into the third test?
Look, Jason is a great team man, know him very well, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I know Jason will be all about the West Indies. He'll be about winning the game, whether he's #1 or #2. He'll want West Indies to win, or if they can't win, at least draw this match and retain the trophy. And if they retain the trophy, that would be a phenomenal achievement away from home against a good England side. They're very capable of doing it. They won the first game easily. They haven't had a great week in the office, but it's gone. Learn from it, come back strong. The management may well make 1 or 2 changes. I wouldn't be surprised if there's just a few changes just to shake it up a bit. But as I said, there aren't a lot of players who are out of form there. There's a few guys who are not going on, but I'm very confident that if they turn up really believing they can win on Friday. No doubt. I've seen it before, and we've all seen it before.
Let me put you on the spot, Toby. You are selecting this team now for this third test match. Do you make changes in the batting?
I think, look, the 2 guys who are probably struggling for form, as you say, Shai Hope, and then obviously John Campbell at the top of the order. For me, John is always about shot selection. He's a lovely player. I just feel in Test cricket, he's just got to be a little bit more selective about what he goes for. Went for a big drive yesterday in the second innings. Ball probably wasn't there, right? Shai, I think, is a confidence and a commitment thing. When Shai's at his best, he's world class. We know that. We've seen it before. He's just got to get off the crease and he's got to get into the ball, because that Wokes, that Curran, that Broad, they're going to target a good length and they're going to nip the ball back in. And as I said before, go back to what worked before, bat out of the crease and commit. As long as you commit, these guys are top players. You can't second guess and think about it while you're sticking on the crease or the ball's through you. You've just got to be committed.
Yeah, but the question still stands, Toby.
Would I make changes? No, absolutely. Would I make changes? I mean, it depends who you're going to bring in.
Yeah.
De Silva obviously had a very good warm-up games, got hundreds, I think, in the warm-up games. And I haven't seen a lot of him personally, but he clearly can play and he's getting scores. It'd be a heck of an ask for him to go into a big series, a must-win match, or do you carry on with someone that has played? I think Shai Hope, I think if Shai had a rest, I think people would say he's had a long run. maybe they want to juggle the order, slide him down and put someone top, or bring someone fresh in. If they did that, I wouldn't have a problem personally with that. Sometimes when a player gets on a long spell, you know, their confidence can be low, and actually you might be doing them a favour in the long term. Bring him out to bring him back in when he's in a better place. You know, personally, because I know he's a really good player, I know he's always one innings away from a big score, and I just want to see his feet move and get out and kill that awkward length of ball, and then I know he's going to get a score for us, you know.
Okay, Toby, thanks for talking to us. Your expert input in the SportsMax zone, well appreciated.
Thanks very much. Nice to chat to you guys.
Yeah, Toby Radford, former West Indies batting coach, talking about analysing the problems the West Indies batting has had. He was at pains to not answer the question about changes coming in. But, you know, really and truly, Mariah and George, Azari Joseph has scored more runs than Hope, Holder and John Campbell in this Test series so far. And I think there are a lot of West Indies cricket fans who would want to see someone else get an opportunity this weekend.
You know, so I'm looking at the numbers here, and I've been looking at the numbers. And Shai Hope, the numbers say, has been a one-year batsman. So 62 innings, 33 tests for Shai Hope, right? Oh, I'm looking the wrong place. I'm sorry, Mr. Director. 62 innings, 33 tests. 2017 apart, Shai Hope's test career is abysmal. And I say it that way because you heard Toby Radford say he's a wonderful player, a class player, but not at Test cricket. At the Test level, at the ODI level, those adjectives and those descriptors apply. And he is a fine, one of the best ODI batsmen in the world, but Test cricket, no. Look at his record. He started in 2015, 5 tests that year, 10 innings, no half centuries, no centuries, highest score of 36 from 10 innings. 2016, 2 tests, 3 innings, highest score of 41. 2017, the year of his magnum opus, 147, and then another 100, batting at 5 in the first innings and 4 in the second innings in 2017. Together, in 2017, he played 10 matches, 19 innings, 2 centuries, 3 half centuries, an average of 45.47. So you can see that his average was inflated by that big unbeaten score and, of course, the other century. Beyond that, he was ordinary in 2017, but 2017 was when he hit his peak. 2 centuries, 3 half centuries. Remember now, in the 2 years before that, he didn't log not even 1 half century. 2018, 9 matches, 17 innings, 150, 1 century, an average of 20.24. 2019, 5 tests, 9 innings, 150, no century, an average of 19.75. And so far in 2020, we know his average 14.25 from 2 matches and 4 innings. So the verdict is that Shai Hope found something in 2017 that he didn't find before and that he has not found since, and that if you take away 2017, so if you're going to say that 2017 proves he is a special player at the Test level and that he's a class player, someone will ask you, okay, so in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of Test cricket, 2020 is not done yet, but in 6 years of Test cricket, why is it that the other 5 years should be discounted and what he did in 2017 is to be so lionized and elevated to a standard as to say that he is a class player? Beyond that, just before you both come, if you look at the graph of Shai Hope's scoring, the Twin Peaks, of course, the 147, as we noted, yes, 25th of August 2017, and then the 118 in the other innings. Apart from that, the gentleman has passed 50. Okay, overall in his life, he's passed 50 7 times in 62 innings. And of that 7 over 50, 2 of those scores were in 1 Test match. So it is, apart from those 2 innings at Headingley, it is an ordinary Test career. So I don't know why people are surprised that he's struggling, because what he has proven by his numbers is that Headingley is not his true self. Headingley is an outlier in the statistics of his performance, and that what we're seeing now, this is the player at Test level. Shai Hope is not the man who has dominated ODI cricket for the West Indies. 78 matches, 73 innings in ODI cricket, an average of 52.21. He has 17 half centuries and 9 centuries. This is a class player, 26 years old at ODI level. But at test level, Headingley apart, he's very ordinary.
What I do know, George, is that the position that he holds, number 3, is a very important spot, especially because West Indies, we know our strong point is in bowling. So where the top order batsmen come in, we definitely need our strongest team. We can't be, discrediting the numbers and just going on the hope that Hope performs for us. I think we need to take into consideration that the spot that he holds is to anchor the rest of the innings. We can't depend on the lower order after they bowl, like just put all our hope on them to come in to bat for us. That's one thing. Another thing is the younger players looking on will start to feel discouraged, and they will start to feel like, okay, so he has his spot cemented. What about us? We're just waiting on the sidelines, and the numbers speak and say that he should be out and they should get an opportunity. How will we ever know if somebody could come and fill that number 3 spot if we don't give them the opportunity to do so?
Well, the fact is, George used the word ordinary outside of the 2017. It's not ordinary. It's poor. It's worse than ordinary outside of the 2017 performances. And his numbers really don't warrant him keeping his place in the Test team, certainly in this final match coming up this weekend. And he would need to, rebuild his stocks to force his way back into the team. Mariah mentioned something important just now, George, because what it amounts to is that the players on the outside looking in, the Sunil Ambrises of this world, will say to themselves, it's unfair for me to be not getting an opportunity, and Hope continues to fail and fail and fail. And Ambris has gotten a brief opportunity, didn't do that well, but lost his place. So I don't think there is any reasonable thinking West Indies cricket fan or expert who could argue strongly for Shai Hope playing on Friday, except with an emotional narrative.
Not even that, Lance. I'm sorry, not even that. You said you applied poor as your descriptor.
Yeah.
I would say that I said ordinary in context. I'm talking about in context of West Indies batsmen, because when you compare his record to much of what we have, he isn't that worse than most. So that's where the ordinary comes from, and I can understand why you said poor.
Yes.
But to keep Shai Hope in the way that we have kept him since Headingley 3 years ago now. You keep a batsman in this way when that batsman has a mountain of runs under his belt. So you know you're talking about a class player who has just lost his way from a form perspective.
We're judging on.
And that's the point. There was a time, and Lance, you remember when Michael Clarke, Pup, was the Australia Test captain. He went 21 innings without a half century, 18 months. But there was always the feeling that Pup would come back. And by that time, Michael Clarke had established himself as one of the best batsmen in world cricket, arguably the best batsman in the Australia team at that time, an Australia team that had Langer in it. Let's not forget, players of that caliber. And so when you have, as they'd say in the political realm, we're in the political season now in the Caribbean, when you have chips in the bucket, you can afford to be carried by your team because they know that, look, at that drop of a hat, this man can come good. Apart from Headingley, Shai Hope's numbers are woeful. And not even from an emotional perspective can anyone make a successful case arguing for him to be retained in the squad, because the numbers where he is concerned, they tell a lie. And
George and Lance, as we're going to the break now, can Nkrumah, Bonner, can Joshua De Silva, anybody perform worse than this? If we pick them, 25 was the top score. We can bring them in and they can make 25 and then they can out if they want. But what I'm saying is that bringing them in, I'm sure they can perform just as bad or even better. It's one way to know, right? We have to add them in the squad. So let's go to break.